me see. Peace and Black Power. Peace and Black Power. Okay, what is Instagram doing? Hold on. It should be more people in here. What's going on with IG? Okay. Okay. What's going on with IG? Hold on, family. One second, family. Is it sending out the notifications, family? Because there should be way more people in here. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what's going on. It should be way more people in here. Okay, we're starting to roll in a little bit heavier now. Peace, God. Peace. Peace and Black Power. Peace and Black Power. Peace and Black Power, family. Yeah. What is, hold on. 1 second, family. Yes, Dr. Kaba. Yeah, it should be showing up on the live. That's what I'm trying to see now. It's acting kind of funny. I should be live right now on Voice of the Ancestors. No, you should be on the page. It's not showing that it's live. Yeah, see, I'm live right now. Yeah, Instagram is acting funny. I'm live right now. It should be, if you refresh the page, try to refresh the page. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Instagram playing funny, family. Instagram playing funny. It's not showing the live, because I know we usually have way more people in here. Hold on 1 second, family. Because Dr. Kaba said he's not seeing it on his end either. Yeah, you said it didn't show up. You had to search for it. Right. They got my page shadow banned all of a sudden. Okay, hold on 1 second, family. One second, family. We trying to get it together. I believe Instagram has me shadow banned because it's not showing it to a certain amount of people. I think Dr. Cobb is one of those people. Okay. All right. So you should just be able to get on and you should see me talking. No, I can't see you yet. Usually you have to request it. Okay. All right, we can go from there. Here we go. All right, hold on, family. We about to get Dr. Kaba in here. Let me make sure. Okay. I see Dr. Kaba just came in. Yeah, it's shadow banding, man. It's supposed to be more people in here. Hold on, let me see if I can get Dr. Kaba on. Okay, let's see if we can get him on.
Okay.
Peace. Can you hear me?
Brother Chicks, peace to you. I can hear you, brother. Everything is good.
Good. Yes, indeed. So it's an honor to have you on here tonight, Dr. Kaba. And, this about to be a powerful bill. Instagram tries to play with the live sometime, but you know how that is.
It's all good. Ain't nothing going to stop us, brother. We keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. Like you always say, it's not over until we win.
That's the bottom line, brother, man.
Absolutely.
So it's good, brother. I thank you so much for this opportunity, man. I really appreciate and I really respect the work that you're doing for our community, for myself, and for all of us that are making this happen. So, duau, which means many thanks in the Kemetic language.
Thank you, Dr. Kaba. It's the same mutual respect as the elder. I feel like this is becoming full circle. Back in 2014, when I first was playing football in college, I got hurt, tore my ACL, and you were one of the people who brought me out of that slump that I was in.
Wow.
For like a lot of us young brothers, we are so committed to the sports. We're so committed to football, and we think that's our purpose in life. And when I first saw Hidden Colors in 2014, you were one of the people I gravitated towards. So just the knowledge you were dropping, and I was like, man, I'm way bigger than football. Way, way bigger than football when you start dropping the knowledge. So football just became a little hobby on the side. At a certain point, I ended up just walking away from it altogether. So, you know, you were one of those people. So this is coming full circle. Here we are 7 years later, about to have a powerful discussion.
There's no question, brother. Been looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just, you know, starting off, can you introduce yourself to the people and your background as an educator?
Absolutely. My name is Kaba Kamene. I corrected my name. I was born Booker Taliaferro Coleman Jr., named after my father, who was from Tuskegee, named after Booker T. Washington. And I grew up in New York in a project, Amsterdam Houses, in mid-Manhattan, right by Lincoln Center. And my profession became an educator. And I started educating. I started as a high school teacher in Gary, Indiana, all-black high school, Roosevelt High School. I was into communications, taught radio and television. And I was motivated to leave communications and to become a teacher. So I returned to New York, and I started teaching in New York in the system, South Central Bronx, in 1979. And people call it retired, but I call it graduated. I graduated in 2009. So I spent 31 years in the Board of Education teaching our children. I've taught every grade. I've taught every subject. I've taught college, high school. And my area of focus was curriculum development, staff development. My teacher, who I give credit, Professor John Henry Clark, when I asked him, where do you think I would best fit? Where do you think that I could best give my contribution? And he said, well, Booker T, we have people with money. We have people with schools.
Right.
We have principals. What we don't have is a curriculum. After we get the child in the classroom, what is it that we want to say to them? So I am a curriculum developer, and I also develop the staff and the community towards education. And it's not just culture, Brother Chase. It's about studying the brain and how the brain operates.
Right.
Because as a people, we've been through so much as a people. Psychologically, we are probably psychologically the most active brain people, because from the moment we wake up, we are thinking in survival mode for the most part.
Right.
That there are many human beings that don't wake up like that.
Right.
They don't wake up in survival mode. They wake up in, well, what am I going to do today? Going to go do it.
Right.
But as a person of African descent, there are so many other preconditions to our existence that I realized that it's not just what you teach. There's a Moorish proverb that says, after you've learned what you set out to learn, you can throw that away because it was the way in which you learned it that was the true education. And so I've come to realize that brain anatomy becomes very important also. So I do lectures and presentations on brain anatomy to understand that, you know, there is a certain style, there's a certain methodology that the original mind works with.
Right.
And so I tried to replicate that by developing a very, Malcolm said it, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't try to get in those complex sentences, stay simple.
Right.
Subject, verb, object. Sometimes you throw in an adjective or an adverb, keep it simple.
Right.
Because not only do those that are listening to you understand, but then you understand.
Right.
Because I've been around people, Brother Chase, that get so deep, they forget what they're talking about.
Me too. Me too. And I thought I knew what they were talking about until they started talking. It just gets so complicated. I understand 100%. And that's one of the beautiful things you do. You make it simple. You make it where a kindergarten can understand it. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yes, indeed.
No doubt.
But, I'm always talking to the family about the importance of connecting with the elders and the importance of the elders connecting with the young generation. It's an old African proverb that says, the younger generation, we can walk the fastest, but the elders know the road. And I see that so much in our community where a lot of times the younger generations, we are the strength of the revolution. We're the people who are getting stuff done. Whether you look back in the 60s and you see the Huey P. News, they were like 24, 23. You see even Dr. King, when he started taking on his first movements and the Montgomery bus boycott and things of that nature, he was a very young man. So can you speak about the dynamic or the importance of having a relationships between the younger generation and the elder generation?
Absolutely. And let me go deep inside the original family. There is a phenomenal Congolese brother. He's joined the ancestors. His name was Dr. Fukia. And he wrote a book. He wrote a number of books. And I encourage us to have his library, Dr. Fukia, Fukiah, Dr. Fukia. Kimwandendi Fukia. And he wrote a book called Kindezi, Kindezi, Kindezi. And he subtitled it, The Art of Babysitting. And in the African tradition, going back deep inside the family, there was a very special relationship between the elder and the younger. When the population of the community, be they from 18 to 40, 45, they would go out and do work.
Right.
But it was the elders that took care of the children.
Right.
It was the elders that taught them the morals, the mores, the culture. They would be the storytellers. They would be the ones that would take care of the child. So the concept was the elders are the ones that have lived life long enough, and they are heading back towards the ancestral and the creator line. The younger are just fresh from the ancestors,
right,
and the ancestral line. And so there is a dynamic spiritual relationship between these two. The younger is letting the ancestors know what is ahead for them when they return back to the ancestral line. And the elder is preparing the younger to live the type of life to be able to be accepted by the ancestral line when the younger becomes the elder. So there was a dynamic relationship. And also what was very important, there was implicit and explicit trust between the younger and the elder. The elder, one of the virtues of the elder teacher is that you have faith in your student's ability to learn.
Right.
And the virtue in the younger is that you have faith and trust in the elder to be able to teach you what you need to learn. So there is a connection between these two that is abounded. And what they did when they ripped us from Africa, when they ripped us from our homeland, and they took our history, they took our language, they took our values, interests, and principles, they also put a wedge between the elder and the younger. They created a society where there is a competition between the elder and the younger. And you see, since I've been younger and now I'm elder, I know there ain't no way I can be younger.
Right.
So there ain't nothing for me to compete with.
Right.
You know, I'm in a position in my life right now that I have lived for, to be able to come on a program with a brother like you, Brother Chase, and to the community that's listening. I've been blessed to be able to do that. With what I've had to do to get to this point in my life, brother, I've loved my life, but I would never want to have to do that again. That was work. There were a lot of things I did. I did what I had to do, but I would never want to be young again. I'm very happy where I am. I'm very comfortable. And this is the way it was amongst us as African people. We're very comfortable with who we are.
Right.
In fact, that's one of the things, that's one of our strengths that is interpreted as a shortcoming. But we are very satisfied where we are as a people.
Absolutely.
And the relationship between the younger and the elder has to be implicit and explicit trust.
Right.
That when you're in my presence, you are living within a safe space. I met Dr. Clark. He was 51 years of age. I was 12 and a half when I first met him.
Wow.
In all of my experiences with that brother, as he had me by years, but I never felt uncomfortable in his presence. He always made me feel comfortable.
Right.
He always made me feel safe. He made me feel that whatever I did or whatever came out my mouth, hey man, I understand.
Right.
I've been there
Right.
before.
Right.
But I may not agree with you, but I understand. And so here, young brother, is how we can work this out. If, from my perspective, I observe you. And that has to be it has to be a trust. It has to be a respect.
Right.
On both sides.
Right.
I came into this interview realizing, Brother Chase, that there was something that you could teach me. I didn't come in here to pontificate. I didn't come here to lecture. I came in to have a dynamic relationship with a younger brother that can expose me to the world that you're living in. Even though I'm living in the same world, I'm not looking at it through your eyes.
Right.
Through your eyes, what are you looking at?
Right.
And from there, whatever I can do to support what it is that you're doing, that's what I do. In the song Glory by Common and John Legend, going back to what you said earlier, brother, there's a line in there that I think it's Common that says, you know, it's the energy of the younger and the wisdom of the elder.
Right. Right.
You know, there's a story that I tell to go along with this concept where you have the younger drummer and the elder drummer, and they're playing for the community. And pretty soon it's time for them to take their own riff. It's time for them to do their own thing. And so the younger drummer, he's going to go into ra-pa-pa-pa-pa. He's just banging that drum. And the people are dancing, right?
Right.
They just dancing, and they got the beat, man. They got the African funk going on. This young brother, ra-pa-pa, wah, ya, wow. I mean, the brother's just playing his drums. And it's time for the elder to come on. The elder starts to play, but the elder is playing at a pace that is moving, and it is doing, and it is great. And what the younger drummer realizes is that with the same energy that the community dance to the younger drummer is the same dance they're doing to the elder drummer.
Right.
And at the end of the performance, the younger drummer and the elder drummer is walking away with their drums, and he says, you know, elder, I realized that when I was playing, the community was dancing. And I noticed that when they heard you play, they still danced, but they played at the same energy level that they were dancing with mine. And the elder said, in life, as you become an elder, you learn how to do the same thing with less energy, with less resistance.
Because the wisdom.
You know, that's it. You don't sweat the small change. My mama used to always say, don't sweat the small change. When I look back 30 years from where I am now, there were things I worried about back then that wouldn't even concern me now.
Yeah, exactly.
I spent time focused on things when, had I been wiser, I would have been able to spend my time wiser on things that were important when that wasn't important.
Right.
As an elder, I try to speak to folk to say, you know, don't sweat the small change. That's not something you got to worry about right now. Here's what you got to look at.
Right. Exactly. Beautiful.
See, so that's the relationship between the younger and the elder. Must be absolute trust between the two. Trust that the elder has in the younger, and the trust that the younger has in the elder. And the only way to do that is to lead by example, and to do what you say and say what you do.
Absolutely.
Never let a child down. You never let, as long as I've been around children, my own biological children and the children I taught, I never said something that I did not think I could do. If I couldn't do it, I would tell them I can't do it now, but I can do it in 2 weeks.
Okay.
But right now it can't be done.
Right.
I never said, yeah, sure, just to keep them quiet. I would tell them I can't do it now.
Right. You were building that trust.
But I can do it in 2 weeks. That's it, because that's trust. Because once you say something to someone that you do not fulfill your obligation, there's a level of trust that will automatically go away.
Right.
Even if you never do it again, they'll always remember the first time you let them down.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Well said, Elder. Changing a little dynamic as a younger person in the community. You were a teacher, I believe, over 40 plus years. Am I correct on that?
Yes. 1977.
Okay, okay. When we're dealing with, the dynamic in 2021, I always say and kind of joke with the family, but it's a serious joke. Cooning is at all-time high, if you know what I
Mm,
mean. The
mm-hmm.
Sambos are highly paid today. They're highly strategic. They have a platform. At what point, you being a teacher, at what point do we stop trying to reteach the Sambo? Because it's in my opinion, as a younger generation, you can't reteach a coon. You can't stop a coon from cooning, because to me, coons are some of the most intelligent people. They strategically make a decision to work against the embetterment of the community. And I understand you as an elder, so I've always felt in between that line of who do we move on without and who do we continue to go back and teach. I'm cool with teaching the so-called Negro, because to me, America breeds Negroes. You're a Negro at birth by the simple fact, if you go to a public school, you're already getting miseducation without you even knowing. You see what I'm saying? So it's easy to reteach that Negro, but the coon, we having a hard time dealing with the coon as a younger generation. So how do you distinguish the two? How do you uh decide what to put your energy into?
What I do is I turn the concept around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so much looking at in terms of teaching a coon. I look at a coon learning from a wise man.
Okay, explain to me that.
What I mean by that is I really don't care if you're a coon. Because with what we have to do, I know by the nature of the demand of the work it's going to take to do what we have to do, the coon is going to leave long ago.
Right. I got you. I got you.
So it's not about me teaching a coon or not teaching a coon. It's about a coon stopping coming to my class.
Right.
So
Okay.
therefore, I
Okay.
get rid of you by the nature of the information that I'm teaching.
Right.
You can't
Right.
get into my space.
Okay. Okay.
You can't get into my space. You are not a concern to me. You see,
Mm-hmm.
in algebra, you have an equation. And in your equation, you have unknowns. We call them variables. Only those variables are going to solve your problem.
Right.
You can't pull a variable from out here, put it into your formula, and it's going to help you.
Right. I get where you're going. I definitely understand.
So
Yes, sir.
coons ain't a variable in my problem.
Right. Okay. Okay. I got you. I got you. I
You know,
got you.
we spend, and again, it goes back to our concept of sweating the small change. We focus on a lot of things we don't have to focus on. When I was a young brother growing up, a friend of mine's father brought a group of us out, young brothers, 8, 9, 10, and he became our track coach. He wanted to keep his son out of trouble, and to do that, he brought his son's friends with us, okay? And I remember, and I'm talking, Brother Chase, I'm going back to young, man.
Right.
And see,
Right.
this is how I know what happens in a child's mind, the memories that they have. Because he said something to us from the very beginning, and he said it every time. He said, when you step in the starting blocks, be on your A+ game, not your A game, your A+ game.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, when the time comes for you to run, you run your race on an A+ game. Never look to see where your opponent is, because the moment you look around to see where your opponent is the moment you're going to slow up.
Right.
If you go on your and you being in sports, you know what I'm saying.
Exactly.
When you're ready to make that run, when you're ready to do that thing, opponents are only important as it relates to pushing you to get where you got to go. But you don't sweat them. And he used to say, if by chance you do not win the race, it means that they were on their A+ game. Study them, figure out what they did, and you do it the next race you have. Because winners never lose. Winners either win or they learn. You don't lose.
Right.
When you lose when you don't try. As long as you try, you're winning.
Right.
And every time you may not get where you want to get, study it. Why didn't you get there?
Right.
So that the next time you try, you get there.
Right.
So, coon are going to be coon because coons suffer from an inferiority and insecurity within them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They have a lack. In fact, they don't even have a lack of self-esteem. They have vacant esteem.
Mm.
It's almost like an empty room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the room where you're supposed to have values is empty.
Right. Right.
Nobody put the furniture in that room for you to live in. And so as an African people going into 2021, there's a great sophistication out here now. You know, your generation now with Instagram Live, with podcasts, with all the things that you have a vehicle to get this information. I wonder sometimes if Dr. Clark and Dr. Chancellor Williams and Shashi McIntyre and all the greats of my generation had this access. You know, if you could have sat here and had a conversation with Dr. Clark or Dr. Ben, but this wasn't out there then.
Right.
And when you come to be elder, this civilization will be far advanced. And it's not the strong that survive. And it's not the survival of the fittest. It's the ones that can adapt to the new world order. That's who survives. Where you know how to strategically map out your life, because there's two things that you're dealing with. You're dealing with survival and thrival. To survive and thrive.
Right.
What white fragility, because I have a problem with white supremacy, but I use it so people know what I'm talking about, because ain't nothing supreme about being white.
Right.
So it's an oxymoron.
Right.
But I'm going to use it so that you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. The being born under the conditions we're born in, they make us live our life to survive. Where we're worried about food, clothing, shelter. We're worried about paying the rent, putting food on the table. Is my child safe in the community? Because as long as psychologically they keep you at that survival level, you will not be able to thrive. You are thriving when all of your basics are being taken care of, where you are receiving the types of, let's call it money, where you know your rent is taken care of. You know the food is taken, all your bills are taken care of. Okay, when you got all that done, then you begin to thrive. When you begin to thrive, you then have the time to think. When you have time to think, you start implementing plans that's going to make you thrive better and maybe help another brother or sister thrive with you.
Right, right.
So they keep you in this. April 30th, the next documentary coming out. Buck breaking. Let me tell you something about what we're watching here with our brother, George Floyd. That is buck breaking.
Right.
Buck breaking, first of all, when you go back to buck, you're dealing with animals, wild animals. And they try to break a horse. Buck breaking. So they have the concept of buck breaking. Now with Africans, what they do, the purpose of the buck breaking itself is not so much what they're doing to the person. It is the audience that's watching it. Yeah, they're buck breaking the individual, but they're buck breaking the audience, because in doing this horrendous thing to this individual, what they're saying is, if I'll do this to him, what do you think I'll do to you?
Right. Psychologist taking the mind first.
Say again?
Say take the mind, keep the body.
Exactly. That is basically what they're trying to do. That's buck breaking.
Right.
So when we watched the officer do what he did to George Floyd, and it's on film, everybody around the world is watching that. That's buck breaking. Every time you see it and you squint and you feel the pain and you get angry. But you see, there's a change happening now. Whether we realize it or not, there is a change happening now. Because I've been through enough of those to know this is different. This is different. And what's different, brother? Here's a simple thing. To me, what made that so different, as horrific as Breonna Taylor was, horrible, just as bad. As bad as what happened to Brother Aubrey. Horrible. Errol Garner. We can go through the list. All of them are hard. But what made George Floyd stand out the way it stood out? And this is what I say, bruh. The camera, yes, but he called out for his mama. Every human being knows what it is when you call out for your mama.
Right.
When you call out for your mama, you are calling out beyond God. You are now calling out for that one person that you believe loves you to the point where she will fix what's wrong with you. Be you a woman or a man, no matter what your culture is, everybody cries out for mama. And you cry out for mama when everything else is hopeless.
Right.
But when he called out for mama, he wasn't just calling out for his earthly mama, because she had already joined the ancestors.
Right.
He was calling out for the black cosmic mother. And she's come down.
Right.
And she is working her show. Things are going to change. My message to young people is to know that. Know that it's going to change, and you are going to be part of what changes it.
Absolutely.
And the forces of evil depend on the forces of good to believe all things are hopeless.
Right.
When you get to the system where you say, oh man, he's always going to win. No, he ain't always going to win.
Tell them
Don't
that all
get
the
that
time.
in your head.
Right.
Don't program that in your head.
Right.
He's not that great. In fact, quite frankly, he is quite ignorant, because he wouldn't do what he did if he was that intelligent.
Right.
Don't ever lose hope.
Absolutely.
And if you ask me, people say to me, do you see hope in the future? I always say, do we have a kindergarten class coming in?
Right. Right.
Because as long as we have our children, we have hope. But it's up to us. It's up to us, the elders. Because sometimes I get in conversation with elders, hey man, what's wrong with these young people? I pull out my mirror. I carry a little pocket mirror, Brother Chase.
Right.
And I just open up the mirror. I say, you want to know what's wrong with the young people?
Right.
Take a look.
Take a look. Take a look. Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautiful. Well said, Elder. You know, like you say, the brother just passed away, Nipsey Hussle. Well, it was his anniversary, 2-year anniversary. And he would always say the marathon continues. And, you know, I know you like to say it's not over until we win. So as long as we keep that energy, because the way I look at it, Dr. Kaba, they've always been telling us we'll never overcome something. On the plantation, we'll never get off the plantation. You never get the right to vote. And every time we continue to win. So it's about continuing to push forward. Absolutely.
That's
well
it.
said. And just changing gears a little bit. Over the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years, there's been a lot of enthusiasm about the black presence or the African presence in America that predates the slave trade. It's been, I mean, this has been a huge topic of discussion lately. A lot of black people have been talking about the history before the slave trade, before Columbus. And we know we had ancestors like Dr. Ivan Van Sertima come before, saying we came before Columbus and things of that nature. Can you speak on the black or the African presence here in the Americas before the slave trade and why that's important? Because a lot of people feel that's not important. A lot of people have been miseducated to think that only African history on the diaspora in Africa is the only history that matters. And to talk about any other history is almost offensive to them to a certain degree. They say, oh, you just don't want to be, you don't want nothing to do with the continent. So can you speak on the black or the African presence here in America and why it's important to know our history globally, not just in America, but, you know, we did powerful things in Asia, in Europe, in the Pacific Islands and such and so forth. So can you speak on that, please, Elder?
Sure, brother. And, you know, it's interesting because I went to Mexico with Dr. Van Sertima, studied with him in 1984. So I have a personal relationship with Dr. Van Sertima, but there's another brother that was also a student of Dr. Van Sertima, and his name is Dr. David Imhotep.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Dr. Imhotep wrote a book called The First Americans Were Africans.
Right.
Now, what we as a people have to understand as we move through the science of this. Science means knowledge, scient. It comes from the word scient. We think of science meaning biology, chemistry, astronomy, but science isn't that. Science comes from the word scient, which means knowledge. So it deals with the arts and the sciences. It deals with the math. It deals with the art. It deals with geography. It deals with history. All the subjects. That's science. When I say science, I mean all subjects, not just some. And when we look at the origin of the world, period, just look at the origin of the world. The human being geographically was located in the countries that we today call Congo and Southern Africa.
Right.
In what we call the Great Lakes region. We could even think in terms of their expansion from this one area into Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Somalia. They spread out over millions of years. And there were 6 forms of humans. Now I got to take you back this far, Brother Chase, into the community that's listening in order for us to understand exactly how global this is.
Right. Please do. Please do.
You see, Western civilization is so local, so shallow, that if you were to expand back, and I always use the, in fact, I went out with my grandson the other day and I bought a Nerf slingshot because I wanted to demonstrate what I was talking about, but I left it in the car, so I can't do it now.
Right.
But think of a slingshot. This is what I'm about to do with us. Think of a slingshot. When you have a slingshot, the purpose of the slingshot is you have something in the sling that you want to propel in front of you. And the one thing you know is that the further back you go, the further in front of you, you're going to propel what's there.
Right.
So what I want to do is I want to take your mind.
Right.
And I want to put it in a sling. And I want to pull it back. Because the further back I pull your mind, the further in the future you're going to propel your existence. I ain't pulling you back just to pull you back.
There you go.
The purpose of pulling you back is to propel you forward.
Right, right.
So in order to understand who you are here, April 2021, you got to understand where you came from.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
everything that brought you to this point in your life right now started millions of years ago. Let me just tell you this, as an ancestor, if you think of your ancestors, and if you look at a generation that is basically 20 years in length, every generation is 20 years. If each and every one who's listening to this program were to go back 20 generations, which basically would be the year 1621. Now, each and every one of us, we know this for a fact, we have 2 parents,
right?
4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, right? If you go back 20 generations, when you start thinking about who you are, and thanks to ancestral footprints, this is who sent me this mathematical chart. If you go back 20 generations, 1621, for you, Brother Chase, to be sitting where you are right now, for Brother Kaba, for everyone that's in the audience, for you to be where you are right now, it took 1,047,576 human beings to bring you into existence. Just think about what I'm telling you.
Right.
1 million for you to be who you are. 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, going back 20 generations. In 1621, it took 1,047,576 human beings for you to come into existence right now. And you think you're alone?
Right.
When you talk about the voice of the ancestors,
Come on now. Come on now.
do you know how many people you represent? And I only took you back 400 years.
Right.
What happens if I take you back to the origins of the human family? Millions of years ago.
Right.
How many folk reside in you?
Mm.
Who do you represent? And when you feel like you alone, You just reflect on how many people that make you up.
Right.
You'll never walk alone. But you got to know them to embrace them so they may embrace you. Because your ancestors, they want to embrace you. They want to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Their purpose for bringing you into existence was to talk to you.
Yeah.
They manifested you. They love you. And they want you to love them. Even the ones you may never know their name. So when we talk about the African presence in America, well, there was a time on the planet when there was only African people on the planet.
Absolutely.
For thousands of years.
Absolutely.
Europeans and Asians did not exist.
That's a fact.
Now, I know that's hard to understand because we are born deep inside of them. We see them every day. So, you know, it's sort of called spatiality. That, like, for instance, if you give a child 5 balls, and if you give them 5 small balls, and then you give them 1 big ball, you say, which is more? Many times the child will go with the 1 big ball because to them, size is big.
Right.
But they don't understand that I said how many, how many more. The 5 balls was the answer, even though they were small. So we've been born in a world where there have been people of European descent and Asian descent who pretty much have been very successful. They've had the businesses in our community. They've had this. So we always think it always was like this, but it wasn't like this.
Right.
It wasn't always like this. And so when we talk about Africans in America, we have to look at 5 different migrations. The first 3 were black people, period. First 3 were black. And then the next 2 came much later, and that's who the Native American that we look at today. And now I have it in my blood, not only from my father, but my mother too. But even if I were a Native American in a community, I should say what I'm saying now because it's science. It's not personal.
Right.
The first group that came here were the Twa Mbuti. They were the short-statured people.
Absolutely.
There is evidence, physical evidence. They found the bones of a woman in San Diego, California. San Diego, California. That's 90,000 years old. Black. At this time, there were no Europeans on the planet.
Right.
There were no Asians on the planet. California is named after an African queen, Khalifa.
That's a fact.
This is science. This is evidence. And so the second migration came a couple thousand years after the first one. African people, taller in stature, because the Twa Mbuti are derogatorily called pygmies.
That's what I was going to ask you. These are we're talking about the same people, the pygmies, and I know in Asia they call them the Negritos.
Yes.
The small okay, so this is the same people. Okay, go ahead.
In Japan they call them the Ainu.
Right.
They have names for them in Vietnam. These are the first peoples these are the first humans that peopled the planet for thousands of years. They moved across the globe. In Scandinavia, they're called Skraelings. Skraeling. Skraeling.
Can you spell that one
Somewhere
more time?
between Skraeling. Skraeling.
Okay.
This is where we just had this thing with St. Patrick. This is where the leprechaun came from. Short stature.
Right.
They peopled the planet for thousands of years, laid foundations. Now, here's the other thing. Africans traveled the world. Let me say it another way. Africans were conceived, born, nurtured, sustained, educated, civilized, created civilizations. And after they got their show together, then they took it on the road.
Right.
So these individuals that are traveling across the globe are coming with mound building concepts. Mound building comes from what's called a ring tumuli, which is like a sundial. Because here's the key, Brother Chase. I ask the audience, here's power. I'm going to ask you a question. If all the Piggly Wigglies and supermarkets and ShopRites and Stop and Shops, all the restaurants were to close, could you eat?
Yeah, you have to go to the ground. Most people couldn't, though.
Okay.
You have to go to the ground. You have to grow your own.
That's right. That's power.
Mm-hmm.
Agriculture has always been what allows the human being to continue. Because
Right.
if you can eat, if you can drink water, you can live.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it is. You can survive. Even though there may be bad times, if you can eat, you will survive. I had a colleague worked in the nutritional staff in the school that I worked in. She and her sister had a little house in the Bronx. They had a little backyard. They grew tomatoes and lettuce and vegetables and fruits. And she knew I liked salad, so she used to make a salad for me out of her own garden.
Mm-hmm.
I've known people work at Wall Street, got a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But if the scenario I just gave you happened, that sister with the small backyard could survive, and that multimillionaire with all that money on Wall Street would
Right.
not.
Right.
Agriculture is the cornerstone to understanding the movement of a people, so that the Twa Mbuti went from hunter-gatherers to agriculturalists to technologists.
Mm.
And the pyramids are a later development of what's called the ring tumuli. That's how we know it started in Africa, because we can see the ring tumuli in Africa, perfecting itself as it's traveling with Africans moving north, the Kushites finally getting into Kemet, and the final, not the final, but one of the finals became Imhotep's step pyramid, and then the perfect pyramid of Khufu.
Mm-hmm.
Because the pyramids in Egypt are as deep as they are tall.
Right.
You know, it
Right.
goes down underground 300 and something feet. It's 481.4 feet tall. I'm talking about Khufu's pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
But that pyramid goes down 300 and something feet because there are many people that believe that the pyramid actually were nuclear reactors that captured energy from the sun.
Right.
And there's evidence scientifically, when you look at how they do it today in nuclear plants, that's exactly how the pyramids were built. Same way.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Chase, when someone tells a perfect lie, the truth is unbelievable.
That's a fact. Real.
When I talk to people and I
Absolutely.
tell them this, they look at me and they say, say what?
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
It's hard to, you telling me that
is.
there was a human being in San Diego, a black woman, 90,000 years old. Come on, Brother Kaba, is that what you're telling me?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I'm telling you that you can find bones that are older than hers in America.
Right.
And they black.
Mm-hmm.
The second movement were the Clovis Folsom. Clovis Folsum. Clovis,
Right. The Clovis
Folsom.
people. Right. Right.
Okay, the Clovis people. Now, they're Africans too, but they're taller.
Mm-hmm.
They're called Clovis Folsom because they were found in New Mexico by a brother, by the way. His name was Mick Junker. You know,
Okay.
he was an archaeologist and anthropologist, but he couldn't get no respect because he was black. But he was the one that came out with these bones, called the Clovis Folsom, found in Clovis and Folsom, New Mexico.
Okay, so that's where they get the name, the Folsom people.
Exactly. They get it from what we today call Folsom.
Right. Right.
And Clovis, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
The third migration is going to come thousands of years after that, and those are the Algonquin.
Right.
Okay? They are mixed with African, but they've been touched by the people who have been impacted by the Ice Age.
Mm-hmm.
So some are not as melanated as the original two groups. Now you got three groups that have melded together. The fourth group is called the Inuit, Innuit. That's a derogatory term. So for what we call Eskimo. Eskimo is a derogatory term, like pygmy is a derogatory term. They come up in much larger numbers, but the fifth are Asians that are avoiding Genghis Khan and Mongol invasions.
Right. And that's normally where Europeans start. They start with, that's the Bering Strait crew. Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
The first Africans that came to America came from Africa.
Right.
They did not come across the Bering Strait.
Right.
There is a shorter distance between the coast of Africa, and the other thing is that they probably came from Southern Africa, because some of the
Right.
older bones also we find are in Brazil.
Absolutely.
We find, that front cover of David Imhotep's book, that's a picture of a brother from Tierra del Fuego, which is the southernmost point of South America.
Okay.
See,
Okay.
because we're in the United States and we're dealing with Europeans, everything is geared towards what we call the continental United States.
Right.
So they're coming down across the Bering Strait. They're the fifth migration. They
Okay.
blend with the other four, and that is who is met by the Europeans in 1492. Even they were black.
Right. Right.
Because to be red, because it's obvious that the indigenous people looking at these Europeans saw such a stark difference in the way they look.
Mm-hmm.
They call them pale face.
Mm.
And when the pale face, the Europeans looked at the Native American, there was a stark difference in the complexion. They call them the red man.
Right.
You don't get
Right.
to be red without mixing with brown and dark brown.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Exactly.
just science.
Yeah.
So it's right in front of us. So when I hear a lot of African folk talk about the Africans who did not come via the enslavement process, that is a correct statement.
Right.
Brother Chase, you could have, the folk that are listening to this interview could have the blood of the original Africans that were here 100,000 years ago.
Right. Absolutely.
You could have that blood in you, not just the
Absolutely.
ones that came from Nigeria or Ghana or
Mm-hmm.
Congo.
Mm-hmm.
You could have the
Mm-hmm.
original blood of the Twa Mbuti. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
you have the original blood of in fact, even Europeans have the blood of the original Twa Mbuti, because European and Asian is not a race. That's another problem we're having. They're not a
Mm-hmm.
race.
Mm.
They're an ethnic stock.
Mm.
They are what mutated out of the original. There's only one race,
Mm-hmm.
the human race. The human race coming up out of the hominids were born in Africa because of the
Mm-hmm.
geographic location. Let me just drop another shoe here.
Okay.
When you look at the sun's direct light onto the equator, where life first emerged, if geographically, some way, somehow, that turned around, that sunlight beamed down on Beijing, China, black people would have been born in Beijing, China. This is
Right.
science. This ain't personal.
Right.
This ain't about superiority or inferiority. When you get into science, what you're talking about is dominant and recessive genes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everything African is dominant.
Dominant.
Everything Eurasian is recessive. A
Mm-hmm.
black woman can bring in every type of human being on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
but only an African woman can bring forward a black child.
Absolutely.
Science.
Absolutely. Mendel's
Not
law.
superiority, inferiority,
Mm-hmm.
dominant and recessive.
Excessive.
That's why when you get
Absolutely.
closer up to the Scandinavia, everybody gets paler, everybody's eyes get bluer, their hair
Mm-hmm.
gets blonde to platinum, because
Mm-hmm.
you are losing the nutrients of life that the sun gives you when you are in presence of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
Absolutely.
such thing as light complexion, dark complexion. Don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's pigmented or no pigmentation.
Right.
Your complexion can't be light. Your skin just ain't pigmented.
Right. Right. Wow.
Simple
This is
science
powerful.
concept.
This is powerful. This is
Well,
powerful.
brother, we said we was gonna get it. We
We're gonna
getting it.
get it. Listen. This is powerful. So let me ask you another question, Dr. Kyle, because I'm just a student, and I want to get as much knowledge, wisdom, and information as I can. Being what you said, the black people of the Americas, the indigenous people of the Americas were black people, the first people of the Americas. What is your concept of Pan-Africanism? I'm a
Oh my God.
Pan-Africanism. I'm a Pan-Africanist in the way of I believe that black people are the original people all over the planet, and that we should do business, we should network, we should engage in trade like we always have been. It's not necessarily a concept of returning back to one physical landmass. For in my opinion, it's a concept of staying where we are, creating strong power hubs where we are, like it really every other group does. A Asian or a Chinese man comes to China, he sets up Chinatown here, and he creates a hub. You know, that's how they do business. That's how they network. So, what's your concept of Pan Africanism? Do you believe in returning back to the continent? Do you believe in being a foundational Black American, staying where you are, creating a strong power hub, and just doing business with brothers and sisters around the world in order to empower each other? What's your concept on that?
Okay. Let me step back for a moment, brother. When
Mm-hmm.
you said that you were a student,
Mm-hmm.
and let me tell you, I'm a student too, brother.
Oh,
In fact,
absolutely.
the more I learn, the more I learn, the more I learn how much more I have to learn. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
makes life exciting for
Mm-hmm.
me. I'm always learning. I'm
Absolutely.
always open. And I think the best teachers are the best students. Because when you know how
Mm.
to learn, you know how to teach.
Right.
And so I stand with you as a constant learner, constantly.
Absolutely.
And I want to
Absolutely.
make this as plain as I possibly can because I understand the conversations that we're
Mm-hmm.
having. And again, I want to make it as plain as possible.
Right.
I'm both. I'm both. I understand ADOS.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
American descendants of slaves. I understand. I wouldn't call myself that, but I understand what they're saying.
Right.
And
Right.
I am all about my people,
Mm-hmm.
African American people. I'm with us. I am one of us. Whatever I can do to support a brother or sister, I'm there for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it, and if I can do it. But I am a Pan-Africanist
Mm-hmm.
through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Be you speak Spanish in Luis Aldea in Puerto Rico or Dominicana, whether you're a Dominican, whether you are Jamaican, whether you're Haitian, whether you speak Dutch from Holland, or you speak English from Guyana,
Right.
whether you from any part of the world, if you are African, you are my brother or sister.
Right.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't lose sight of the unique history of the
Mm-hmm.
African American.
Absolutely.
Everybody that comes to America, for whatever reason, if you are coming for a better life,
Mm-hmm.
you are coming because of what African Americans did to this country to make it the power that it is.
That's
And
100% a
that's
fact.
not to be misunderstood
Right.
by saying, okay, now that I'm like this, if a brother's from Ghana or a sister Nigeria, I'm doing business with my people. I ain't caring about them.
Right.
I can't do that.
Right.
I can't, because by blood we are united. In fact, we could be united by blood, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know it.
Mm-hmm.
I am stone ADOS, and I understand, but not at the point that I would not support another brother, sister from somewhere else in the world. I understand. I met some folk that don't respect African Americans,
Right. Right. Right.
but
Oh,
they're not
hold on.
doing that because,
Hold on 1 second, Dr. Kaba. The live is about to end. We're gonna
oh
end
yeah,
it and we're gonna come back on. Yeah, it's they give you an hour time limit. And if I don't save
okay,
it within the hour, it's gonna disappear. So I'm gonna end it and then we're gonna come right back on. So refresh your page and we'll be back live again.
I'll see you then.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Hotep fam.
Hold Okay. Okay, family, hold on 1 second. Let me get Dr. Kaba back in here real quick. Yeah, man, they shadow banned in the live, so hold on, let me get Dr. Kaba back in here real quick. Okay. Yeah, they're shadow banned in the live, so they're putting us on time limit. So we have to, end it before it deletes it. Okay,
We're
we
back.
back.
Okay, brother.
Absolutely. I apologize about that. Like I say, Instagram, they got my page on shadow banned and restricted. So, we have
Hey,
the
listen,
hour time limit.
no doubt, whatever we got to do, brother, we'll do it and move on. That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. But you were going and you were building about the concept of foundational Black American, or ADOS, and how you view other brothers and sisters as far as a Pan-Africanism approach.
I see them both.
Right.
I am both. I'm not either one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
My name Booker T.
Right.
I
Right.
grew up deeply within an understanding of my African American heritage. My father's from Alabama, named after Booker T. Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I'm African American through and through, but my motto is Pan-African or perish.
Mm.
Pan-African or perish.
Mm-hmm.
I am all for my people.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Nigerians should look after Nigerians.
Absolutely.
You Puerto
Me and
Ricans,
myself included.
Puerto Ricans should look out after other Puerto Ricans.
Absolutely.
Dominicans should look out for their own people. My problem isn't that they looking out for their people. My problem is we should be looking out for our people.
Right.
And then
Right.
together we come together as a strong force, because they got themselves together, we got ourselves together, and then we can do something together.
Absolutely.
We should be looking out for each other.
Absolutely.
That's your responsibility. That's your culture.
Mm-hmm.
Be proud of that. Celebrate
Mm-hmm.
that. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to support you. That means I got to get myself together.
Right.
And no matter where you come from, if you're in this country for a better day, you're in this country because of what the Africans indigenous to the United States of America, not because anything that you did. Because if my memory serves me right, one too many, when I hear them talk about who's coming to America from Central and South America,
Right.
I sort of kind of go over there to New York, where, and I look at that Statue of Liberty and I look at that poem underneath. Wasn't
Right.
looking like too many situated Europeans were coming here. Because I heard them say, give me your poor, your homeless, your sick, your dirty, your prostitutes, your criminals.
Right.
Okay, your rapists.
Yeah, they released the jails. They just let the jails out
Hey,
and said, come over here.
your religious fanatics
Absolutely.
that want to burn people at the stake.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Okay, sound to me like there's a problem here.
Mm-hmm.
So the best of you didn't come here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they came for what Africans had done for free for this country.
Absolutely.
They built this country.
Absolutely.
We built the economy of this country, as the Caribbean built up the economy of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
There's a problem. They couldn't sustain it.
Mm.
And they're not sustaining it.
Mm.
And this civilization is falling. It's in the process of falling right now as we speak. Mm-hmm. And I ask us as a people, what are we going to do when it falls?
Right.
Are we prepared to have our own educational system, our own economic system?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a spiritual sense of who we are as a people? Do we have what we need in place?
Mm.
We have to get ourselves together, and we no distractions. There's too many distractions. We're letting things get in our way. It's distracting us from the more important things that we have to be doing for our children and for our people.
Right.
And this argument ain't helping nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an African American, proud to be an African American, work with the African American all my life, know nothing other than that.
Right.
But Pan-African or perish.
Respect.
And my brother Baba Heru gave me a word that's an African word. He calls it Nebu Afrika. Nebu
Africa. Okay.
Nebu, N-E-B-U. It means all. All. But the African all is the cosmic all. It ain't just about all people.
Mm.
It's all nature. It's all cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
All is inclusive of all.
Right.
And Afrika, Af means the skin of, what shapes something. The skin, Af. Ra is the light and heat energy of the sun, and Ka is the spirit.
Right.
So Nebu Afrika is more than Pan-African, because Pan is a Greek word coming from all.
Mm-hmm.
But Nebu is an African word. Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So I introduced that word, but it means Pan-African.
Right.
Africa is the richest, most resourceful geographic location on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And the closer you get to the equator, the more plentiful the reward.
Absolutely.
Whatever's going to happen in the future is going to happen through our relationship with Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it twisted.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if a brother or sister from the Caribbean or from Central or South America or from anywhere else in the world comes to America and disrespects African American people,
Mm-hmm.
they're not disrespecting African American people because they are the culture from whence they come. They are disrespecting African people, quite frankly, Brother Chase, because they're assholes.
Mm. Right.
Don't think because it's their culture that makes them do that.
Mm. Mm.
It's because they are inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the same people that when you talk about cooning and samboing and all the other things, they're all part of that. And so my reality is I love you unconditionally. I ain't got time for you right now.
I ain't got time for you. It's like you say, we focused. We focused on what
No
we got to do.
distraction.
We focused on what
No
we got to do.
distraction.
Absolutely. Well said,
No
Dr. Kaba.
distraction.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That was well
Okay,
said.
so that's my answer because it's very complex and it's very controversial.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying we can be both.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
It's not either or. It's and.
Right.
I'm Ados and Nebu Africa.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I say the same thing, Dr. Kaba. I say the same thing. So that was well said. I'm glad you're clearing all of this up. And, you know, this is why we need the elders and the younger generation. We have to have that relationship. So somebody can see it from a different point of view and give us the knowledge and wisdom.
And take the best and leave the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, what you like about it, you take. What you don't like about it, leave it. I always tell people, you know, my purpose is not for you to believe me. In fact, I hope you don't believe me. My purpose is to make you think. A good educator, you think. I'm not trying to persuade you.
Right.
I'm not looking for you to agree with me. It would be, it's all right.
Right.
But I've had people tell me, you know, like there are things that you say I don't agree with, but I have to say you make me think.
Absolutely.
I've had people tell me, Brother Kaba, that is nonsense that you're talking. I said, wait a minute now. Okay. Now I'm successful. You just said, I think. I didn't tell you this for you to believe me.
Right.
Even if you don't agree with me, if you thought about it and don't agree with me, at least I made you think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's well said. Well said. And that's what it's about. Because, you know, everybody's just trying to learn. Like you say, everybody's a student. So we building on information. A lot of times you gave me the seed so I could take that seed and go grow it and see where I can go with it and do my own research. Changing gears a little bit as we'll wrap things up because we don't want to take too much of your time, even though it's a powerful bill. You know, we could talk to you all day.
Well, it gives me reason to come back, brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, you know, we got to talk about, you know, your book that came out not too long ago, Spirituality Before Religion. Everybody needs to go get this book off Amazon. The recent book, The Shabaka Stone, which I got on the way. It's supposed to be here today, but it's probably going to get here tonight. I remember back 2016, I was in the library. I had just started to come into consciousness. I had been studying and researching for about 2 years. Stolen Legacy, Chapter 8 by George G.M. James. The Memphite Theology, the Shabaka Stone. Can you speak on that? Because when I read it, you know, and I'm not afraid to say sometimes we read stuff too early. We try to jump to certain things that are way outside of it. Was going way over my head. And I was like, what is he talking about? You know, but every time I go back and I read that book, Stolen Legacy, once a year, and it comes clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And now I can't wait to read the Shabaka Stone that you're going into more detail. So can you tell for the people who don't know about the Shabaka Stone? And really, you know, what we're starting to see is that all the major, not only Western religions, but just philosophies in general, what he calls in the book, George G.M. James calls primitive science, comes from Africa, comes from that Shabaka song. So can you talk about that for the people that are listening?
Absolutely. In fact, there are 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trinity. The first book I wrote was A Libation to William Leo Hansberry.
Okay, I didn't know that.
If you're interested in African studies, if you're interested in studying your history, William Leo Hansberry developed the first African studies program in an accredited college in the United States. I titled the book Honoring William Leo Hansberry, the Architect of America's African Studies Department.
Mm-hmm.
Up until then, African folks studied history through U.S. history, and a lot of time it was marginalized. William Leo Hansberry developed a curriculum that he taught at Howard University from 1922 until 1959. When I was going to get my master's thesis, I spoke to Dr. Clark and I asked him, what do you think I should do it on? Mm-hmm. And he said, you should do it on William Leo Hansberry because that's what you're doing. You're doing curriculum writing and staff development. And if you study him, then you'll see where you came from and what it is that you need to do. So I did my first, my first master's degree was in history. I did it on the life and times of William Leo Hansberry.
Okay. Have to go get that one as
well.
Then
I went for my second master's degree in education supervision and administration. And I again did my thesis on William Leo Hansberry. But how did he build that department?
Mm-hmm.
What did he do to build it?
Mm.
So my first book, because whenever we act, it is an African tradition to do libation.
Mm-hmm.
To pay homage to those that came before us.
Right.
And so what I did was the first book is dedicated to William Leo Hansberry. And what I did is I combined my 2 master's theses into one book. His life and history, what he did, and then his works and how he developed that Black Studies department.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a phenomenal story. And what he did, we all should know. He was a contemporary of Carter G. Woodson.
Mm-hmm.
When Carter G. Woodson was at Howard University, he was a contemporary of Alain Locke and Ernest Just, the biologist.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that we needed to know him.
Right.
And so I paid homage to him in the first book. But I paid homage to him in the first book because I was about to start my writing career. And so I paid libation. My second book was my journey through spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up Roman Catholic.
Right.
And that was quite an experience.
Right.
But there was something missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that from a very young age. And so, long story short, Spirituality Before Religions basically is written to analyze African documents from Kemet,
mm-hmm.
developed by the Cushites,
mm-hmm.
the books, the Memphite theology, the pyramid text, the coffin text, the Book of the Coming Forth Today by Night, the Aten text, and the Shabaka Stone. I'm analyzing that.
Right.
And I am demonstrating in the writing. See, here's the other thing, Brother Chase, when we talk about the controversies like ADOS and Pan-African,
mm-hmm.
when we talk about all the different controversies, I know that there are many people that approach the discussion of African religions by really giving religions a hard time.
Right.
My approach was a little different. I wanted to demonstrate to the community why be you agnostic, atheist, Christian, Buddhist, if you Muslim or Hebrew, Zoroastrian, from A to Z, every religion, I'm going to show you where your scripture came from.
Right.
Even in the Christian faith, Catholic in particular, in terms of the Eucharistic feast, the body and blood of Christ, I demonstrate how in the pyramid text, in utterance, they didn't call them scripture, they called them utterance because they saw it as a word of God, not a writing of God. So they called them utterances.
Okay.
In utterance 273 and 274, I demonstrate how Africans carved on the wall how Unas, who was the Pharaoh, the Neset Biti, the Pharaoh, transformed into the bull, Apis, which represented fertility, and ate the bodies and drank the blood of the gods. But it was a metaphor, Brother Chase.
Right.
Wasn't nobody supposed to take that literally?
Whoa. You just made a lot of people mad just now, Dr. Kaba.
Listen, sometimes the truth hurts.
It does, but we got to speak it. We got to speak it. Oh,
now,
man.
Nowhere in there did I say it. But look, if I'm wrong, then go to the text and see it for yourself.
Absolutely.
But the purpose behind eating the body and drinking the blood of the gods was a metaphor for you are what you eat.
Right.
If you ingest the divinity, you become divine. If you take in the blessings of the Creator and the ancestors, you become blessed and you become divine. It wasn't a real story, it was a metaphor.
Right.
And it's a beautiful story. And the water and wine was used because water is the substance from whence the cosmos came into existence. Absolutely. And the wine is the earthly water. And it wasn't the kind of wine that has alcohol in it. Right. It was fermented grapes. It was fermented peaches. It wasn't drinking to get high.
Right.
Although you did get a little heady, but it wasn't about alcohol. They didn't put alcohol in their wine or their beer. They used grain, hops, you know, everything that beer is made from. But it was the fermentation process. Even the Dogon fermented drinks. So that spirituality before religions was meant to be an analysis to show us where our African ancestors, where they brought the human family through spirituality. And then when all of these ethnic groups and other cultures came to Africa and learned this spiritual system, they warped it, they contaminated it by bringing in concepts that are just, like for instance, to have a god, you must have a goddess. The idea of an only male god and that God is going to create a man. I show the pictographs of where you actually have the god or the Neter Kunum, the hidden one, the hidden life force of fertility is shaping two images in front of him. The Creator did not create man and woman. The Creator created body and spirit. And it's carved on the walls. So even when you're looking at the birth of Adam and Eve, come on, fam, look, let's just jump out our bag for a minute. Let's look at this story now. You're telling me that an entity that we call God shaped a human being out of clay, and then he was lonely. And so with all the thousands of animals and things around, he lonely. And so he puts him under anesthesia. Brother, I need to know who this God doctor is. He give him anesthesia, put him to sleep, take out his rib bone, and creates a woman from the rib bone. Brother, I'm asking you, can you help me understand this story?
Right. Dr. Kaba, I've been trying to get this guy's number for the last, I've been asking brothers, let me give him a call. Can we schedule an appointment? I got to hear it myself as well. So you spot on.
Hey, man.
You spot on.
You know, I mean, I got to, but the story is beautiful. See, my problem, Brother Chase, is that the story is very beautiful. It's a wonderful story. If we were to understand it from its most fundamental perspective, that each and every one of us is the Creator having a human experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You don't have to go outside yourself for the Creator. You are the Creator.
Right.
And you have been manifested by the Creator with an inalienable divine gift that only you have. And even if other people do the same thing you do, they don't do it like you. So there's no reason for competition. You do you.
Absolutely.
Find that divinity in you. Involve. You've evolved, now involve. Go deep inside. Find that Creator. Love that Creator. Recognize the ancestors. Find a way to live your life. And know one thing. Dr. King was right. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it does bend towards ma'at, justice and righteousness. It may take some time,
Right.
but it's going to be all right.
Right.
And black folk are still going to be here. Ain't nothing going down in the world without black folk.
Absolutely.
When black folk are gone, the world is gone. And we just have to understand this from the deepest perspective. However, when I was a young man, my very young 20s, I wrote a book on Ethiopia. And my mother worked for an organization. She worked for a corporation, and there was a Xerox room. And I asked my mother if she could make Xerox copies of the book that I was reading because I wanted to correct them. So she brought it in. They knew my mother. Most of them were African American. They had a whole Xerox room. And my mother went back down to pick up the books that were made copies of. And the brother said to my mother, your son wrote this book? And she said, yeah. And he said, well, if your son wrote this book, he will definitely like this one. And he gave my mother a Xerox copy of Stolen Legacy.
Oh, man. Wow. This was in... Okay. Right. Okay.
This was before reprint. It had come out, but then it went under. But then brothers and sisters saw its value and made Xerox copy. It was on the underground. Okay, and that's how a lot of things came. So in Xerox machines and corporations, what corporations don't know is brothers and sisters were making copies of works by Albert Churchward and Gerald Massey and all these. Unbeknownst to them, that's what they were doing in the Xerox room. And that's how I got my first copy of Stolen Legacy. And I brought it home and I read it. I got to page 139, chapter 8.
Absolutely.
That blew my mind, brother.
Absolutely.
The Memphite theology. It just blew my mind.
Mine too.
And so what I did is I did research. I have done untold presentations on Shabaka Stone. I've gone to London to do a presentation right in front of the Shabaka Stone where it was hanging on the wall. Wow. Shabaka Stone has been and is the key to spirituality before religions.
Absolutely.
It is the third book of the Trinity, but it's the third book. You know, when you take algebra, you have to take pre-algebra.
Right.
When you take calculus, you got to take pre-calculus.
Pre-calculus, exactly. Steps.
Because there are things that's going to get you ready to understand the principles of calculus. That's how I wrote these books. Shabaka Stone is really the book I meant to write.
Oh, wow.
But in order to introduce Shabaka Stone, the prerequisite was spirituality before religions and William Leo Hansberry.
Absolutely.
So it's a trinity.
Absolutely.
But Shabaka Stone was really the first book I was going to write in intention. Just like whoever wrote the book on calculus wrote it to learn calculus, but there's a realization that there are steps before you get to that book, which introduces you to the principles of that book so that when you get to it, it's better. Now, for the community that might be interested, on my website, www.kabakamene.com, KABAKAMENE.com, I have a free e-course and my free study guide. The e-course is a 6-day course that I prepared 3 years ago to prepare the family for spirituality before religions. 6-day e-course.
Right.
My study guide is a 44-page study guide that is the outline of my life. Dr. Clark used to say, you may not reach your destination, but if you leave the proper roadmap, those that follow you will continue your journey.
Beautiful.
This study guide is my outline of my work in my life. And it's free. And it's free because it's the most important thing. Because sometimes the most important things are free.
Right.
Some of the most important things I've ever learned that I teach, I didn't learn in college. I learned on the corner of 125th Street. Or on 167th Street in the Bronx from a brother nodding out. I was talking to a brother trying to sell me a book on Paul Robeson Speaks. And he stopped me in the Bronx and we were talking on the corner. Come to find out in our conversation, that this brother had been part of the Black Panther Party movement. There were people that he knew that I knew. There were places he had gone that I had been there. And I'm looking at this brother, he nodding out. He on heroin. But this brother was in the movement doing mighty things. I learned more from him than I did when I spent time at Columbia University.
Right.
He taught me more, nodding out, than I learned in college. So I listened to everybody to learn. And I realized the greatest knowledge doesn't always come the way you think it comes. And it doesn't always come through the mouth. That sometimes I've learned things through the mouth of a person I least want to hear that from.
Right.
But the Creator put those words in his or her mouth to check me to see if I was listening. The Creator speaks to us sometimes in places we don't want to hear it, but it happens. And so these are the 3 books on Amazon. And William Leo Hansberry, Spirituality Before Religions. Spirituality is unseen science. Science is seen spirituality. And Shabaka Stone. I also have an online class. You go to Shock Metaphysics. Because we're working, Brother Chips.
Absolutely.
We're working.
Absolutely.
And it's out here for our community. My responsibility is 2 words, not one. Responsibility isn't 1 word, it's 2 words. Responsibility is your response to your ability. Responsibility is an action word. Accountability is to be accountable for your abilities. Nature accepts no excuses.
Absolutely.
She's given us all our cards. We must play with the cards that we've been given. There are people who have been given great hands. They play them well, but I know someone to mess up to.
Right.
I know people who have been given not too good hand, but they played it to the max. And they got the best out of what they could. And that's what the Creator is asking. Play your cards right. Don't fold. Play them. Stand for what you believe in. Say what you do and do what you say. And for all us brothers, you know, there are things that we have to begin to start thinking about as it relates to our relationships and what it is that we have to do, and to our sisters. The strength of a nation. See, people say nation, they're nation building. I'm dynasty building. Nations are built by people. Dynasties are built by families.
Right. Right.
We have to be family oriented, man. You know, when I was younger, before I was married, before I had children, man, I used to roam the earth with shopping bags, Mad Hatter, Shirt King.
All right.
Okay. My money came to me.
Right.
I was having a good time. When I got married, had children, my shopping bags say Toys R Us, Kids Are Us, Babies Are Us. You know, when you're committed. See, black folk don't have a problem with relationship. Most people have a problem with commitment. See, you know, I mean, when you get married and have children, your pronouns are no longer I, me, and mine. It's we, us, and ours. And once we get that understanding of building, that's what dynastic Kush did. That's what dynastic Kemet did. They built by families. And that's what allowed the civilization to last uninterrupted for over 4,000 or 5,000 years. Just the 18th dynasty alone existed longer than the United States of America.
Wow.
They existed over 250 years. From Sennacherib and Seqenenre Tao of the end of the 17th dynasty to the Pharaoh I of the end of the 18th dynasty, moving into Ramses I and Seti I and Ramses II. Dynamic things were happening in Africa.
Right. Amazing.
And so we can't lose sight of that culture and that history, because that's in our DNA. We got the DNA of the pyramid builders. We got the DNA of the plantation dwellers. We
Right.
got the DNA of the brothers and sisters in the project, but we also have the DNA of the brothers and sisters who will live in the promised land.
Mm.
And it's coming.
Absolutely.
Dr. King told us we're going to get to the promised land. We got difficult days,
Right.
but we as a people are going to get to the promised land. Don't ever forget that. So
Absolutely.
whatever you do, you keep on keeping on, because it ain't over till we win.
It ain't over until we win. Beautiful. Beautiful. And go
And
ahead.
one more thing I want to say, brother,
Hmm.
is I believe that when someone wishes to oppress you, they take three things from you. They take your history, they take your language, and they take your values, interests, and principles, known
Right.
as your psychological factor.
Hmm.
Okay, history you can learn, but I noticed someone is making a statement, a comment about languages.
Hmm.
We need to understand language as it relates to who we are as a personage. I'm recommending that Medu Neter, or hieroglyphs,
Hmm.
become the classical African language for the African community worldwide.
Mm.
Just like Greek is to the European,
Right.
Medu Neter, or hieroglyphs, the classical language,
Hmm.
may not necessarily be spoken by everybody, but the
Hmm.
practical language that should be spoken, we should study Kiswahili.
Mm.
Kiswahili is the largest African language spoken in the world. It is the seventh largest language spoken in the world. Kiswahili has been adapted by various United Nations departments in Africa and worldwide to be a standard language spoken
Right.
in the world. But not just that. Kiswahili is grounded in the original language spoken by Africans starting in Central and South America that we today call the Bantu language.
Hmm.
So if I go to Holland, my brothers and sisters speak Dutch there. I speak English. We should be able to speak Kiswahili to each other.
Right. That's the common.
That's the
Hmm.
common language. If I go to
Hmm.
Brazil, my brothers and sisters speaking Portuguese, I speak English. We should speak Kiswahili to each other.
Hmm.
That can be the unifying language. Plus, we already celebrate Kwanzaa.
Hmm.
Kiswahili is
Hmm.
already in our vocabulary.
Hmm.
Jambo means hello. Kwaheri means goodbye. I used to teach songs to children
Hmm.
in Kiswahili. I taught Kiswahili to children. I taught Meduneta to children in the second grade, but I didn't teach it as language. I taught it as art.
Mm.
And then we created the language from the art, because once they understood the art, they just transferred the art into the language as opposed to trying to transfer the language into the art. See, Brother Chase, it's about how the brain functions and how the neurons in the brain are
Mm.
connected to nerve cells.
Right.
We have to reconnect our neurons
Hmm.
because we've been thinking wrong too
Mm.
long. We have to look at the
Absolutely.
world through our own eyes. Because when
Absolutely.
someone takes your history, language, and values from you,
Hmm.
they then superimpose their history, their language, their values, interests, and principles on you, so that no matter what decision you come to, it is never going to be in your best interest, because you ain't looking through the world, you ain't looking at the world through your eyes.
Right. Right.
But once you become self-centered, African-centered, then your decisions you make come out of your desire to improve your condition, not
Right.
their condition, your condition.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Science.
Hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful, Dr. Kyle. Like I said, we're going to have to, we saving this live. We're going to play it back because this really is a whole 2 hour teach tape. It's truly a
Mm.
teach tape. We're going to go back and study it. The last thing I want to ask you before you leave, because we understand that every generation goes through something. It's a big saying that goes around. Professor Smalls tells me all the time, the wise man learned from history. The stupid man avoided. They avoided
Mm.
because history is going to always repeat itself. So as an elder, what do you want to see from the younger generation? What mistakes did your generation make when you were in our position, when you were 25, when you were 20? What are things that you wish you would have done to make that process smoother, things you wish you would have picked up on sooner that you want to see the younger generation pick up on?
One basic thing is, I think that we thought freedom was free.
Mm.
I don't know if at that point we were mature enough to understand exactly what we're dealing with, but I have to admire every generation and thank them for all that they did. Because no matter how you look at it, if there had not been a Stephen Fetchit, you may not know Stephen Fetchit. He goes back into the early 20th century. He was a comedian. He was an actor. Bill Bojangles Robinson was a dancer. He was an actor. And he was made to play parts that were demeaning and disrespectful.
Right.
And he was what he had to do was very inappropriate for a human being to have to go through. But he went through it.
Right.
And he went through it knowing that if he did what he did, then Kevin Hart could exist.
Right.
He sacrificed things for the future generation. You see, people say to me, are you doing this for your ancestors? No. What I do, I'm not doing for my ancestors. I'm doing it through my ancestors for the children. I'm doing this for the children. Why would I do this for the ancestors? They did what they did for me.
Right, right.
So I am taking the gift that they gave me, their sacrifice, what they gave up. And I am now passing the baton to the younger generation, for them, through the ancestors, for the children.
Absolutely.
When you ask what errors we made, it's hard to answer that question because I think we did the best we could with what we had. And every generation is able to push forward with what they have. And so what I think is we have to stop fighting amongst ourselves. We have to have real dialogues between the Bloods and the Crips.
Absolutely.
And all of the other street organizations to help them understand exactly who the enemy is. And what is an enemy.
Right.
Because you only have one enemy. The one enemy you have, each of us is born with a Judas and a Messiah. Judas is born within you to make sure you don't accomplish your life's goal. Messiah was born to make sure that you do. You got to defeat that evil within you. That's your only enemy. And once you defeat that, everything else outside is nothing but an obstacle that you just got to get over. White man not my enemy. He's an obstacle. He's in my way. He need to get out my way. Move on over or I'll move on over you. He's not an enemy. He's an obstacle. Because once I get this person in here right, once the Messiah takes over and resurrects the purpose of my existence, all that stuff outside I can handle.
Right.
I can handle that.
Yes, indeed.
And so we all are should do the best we can with what we have. Every generation has had their coons, their buffoons, their sambos.
Indeed.
And all those in between. Our stars, our greatness, things that touch our heart. We have that. And so the one thing that the way I could answer that question is keep on keeping on.
Right.
Just keep on keeping on.
No matter
with the mentality, this ain't over till we win.
Absolutely.
And with that in mind, then you can achieve beyond your dreams. In fact, your dreams will allow you to do things that you didn't even dream about.
Absolutely.
I bear witness. One day I'll tell the stories. But when you stay open, ma'at is the key. Truth, justice, righteousness, order, arrangement, harmony, but most importantly, reciprocity. What goes around comes around. You shall reap what you sow. If you and I were standing together and we were facing a wall and I had one of those rubber Spalding balls, them tight balls that bounce good, right? Would I have to convince you that when I throw this ball up against the wall, it's going to come back?
Nah, you won't have to convince me. I know it's gonna come back.
That's right, because you know the principles of rubber, wall,
Right.
and energy.
Right.
Well, that's the same thing about life.
Mm.
If you throw out negativity, it's going to come back at you.
Absolutely.
Sometimes sevenfold.
Mm. Mm.
And the hottest part of hell, the hottest part of hell, it's a proverb, is reserved for those who knew better but didn't do better.
Mm.
It's not even reserved for the person that did it.
Right. Right.
You must speak on what you see, and that's probably some of the problems. Some of us got into some jobs, and some of us got a little bit of money, and some of us got that house, and all of a sudden we think, hey, everything's all right. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And it was your absence from being on your post that allowed the infiltrators to come in. I'm from the rap generation. Rap was my generation.
Right.
Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni, Gil Scott-Heron, Oscar Brown Jr. Just check any of them brothers out. They was rapping back in the 50s and 60s.
Absolutely. I know.
Sam Cooke, first African-American to own his own label.
Absolutely.
His first person that he had on his label was Muhammad Ali, who had an album called I Am the Greatest. It was nothing but rap.
Right.
Rap ain't new. Rap was when we were growing up. That's what I say. You want to talk to a young lady, say, do you mind if I rap to you for a while?
Right.
We use that word.
Right.
Can I rap to you?
Yeah.
That's when I was young.
Right.
And so what we're dealing with here is a younger generation that has inherited a legacy, but they don't know it's a legacy because they think they invented it. Where they don't know that I'm doing research right now, brother. I'm going back in time where I can connect the original language of the human family spoken by the Twa and Mbuti, the click language. I can connect the click. And if you want to hear click, just download or listen to a song, Pata Pata by Miriam Makeba.
Okay.
Pata, Pata. You'll hear the click. Now, when you listen to that song, Pata Pata, that click language is the original language spoken by the human family.
Okay.
If you listen to the click language and then go to Beethoven, another brother, and listen to how he played the piano, the beats is what you're listening. The beats. Now, from Beethoven, go to Thelonious Monk. Listen to the beats. Now I tell you, go to Dave East. He's got the beats of the original language. There's a relationship between rap, beats, and the original click language. That's how far back we go. We don't see the connection between the classical black music of Beethoven, the jazz of Thelonious Monk, and the rap of Dave East. Or Nipsey Hussle. You know, Nipsey Hussle was named after a brother named Nipsey Russell.
Right.
Now
Absolutely.
research who Nipsey Russell was to understand why Nipsey was called Hussle. You'll understand it.
Right.
I am because they were, since they were, therefore I am. I am but a continuation of an eternal process of the coming into being of the masterpiece of the universe, which is the human being in its most original form, the black form. I am black first.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Dr. Kaba, like I said, man, we got this one saved. We're going to play it back. We really appreciate you just taking time. We know you're a busy man, taking time out your day to just come and talk to us as the younger generation, because a lot of times we don't feel like we had that connection with the elders, or we're afraid to talk to the elders. Like you said, going back to that trust aspect, so it's about the trust. And I really, like I say, Really appreciate you going back to 2014, watching you on Hidden Colors, seeing your face on the big
Oh yeah.
screen. And now you
Yes,
right here
yes.
on my cell phone. So, man, it's an honor, a true honor. What I want to do, Dr. Kaba, do you have any way people can get signed copies of your book from you? Do you have a personal site, or do they have to go
That
through Amazon?
Well, they don't have to go through Amazon, but we could always talk through Cash App.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, so which, so whatever you might want to do,
Right.
you could do it through Cash App, or you could do it
Okay.
through PayPal.
Okay.
But you just have to be very specific as to what you want, and just let me know.
Right.
But if by chance that might be of challenge to you, Amazon is the way to
Okay.
do it. But the other way is autograph. You could get my autograph copy.
Right, right. And that's what I want to do, because what I like to
Yeah.
do is when we bring people on, I want to, for the family who's listening, if you can DM me right now, the first 5 people to DM me what you learned from this build between me and Dr. Kaba, I'm going to order your copy of the Shabaka Stone. Okay? So his newest book, the Shabaka Stone, the first 5 people who can let me know in my DMs, you got to DM me right now, and tell me 3 things that you learned from this live. I'm going to order the Shabaka Stone for you, and hopefully I can get it from Dr. Kaba. You can get it signed as well. And we'll connect after this, and I'll give you a call and send you the information of the people, and we'll do the money exchange that way, Dr. Kaba.
That sounds good, brother, because that's a
Absolutely.
good way of doing it. Then you could get a signed copy. But, brother, I also want to pay my respect to you and thank you for all that you're doing.
No, I'm
You are
honored. I'm
making a
honored.
difference. And,
Thank
and,
you.
and I am honored that you are honored, brother,
Thank you.
because this is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We encourage each other.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a young man, I told Dr. Clark one time, I say, Dr. Clark, I could never pay you back for what you did for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you're right, because you ain't got that much money. He said, but what you can do
All right.
to pay me back is do for others what I've done for you.
Mm.
And so I thank you, Brother Chase, for giving me this opportunity to thank Dr. Clark for what he did for me, for whatever I can do for you, and to all those that listen to you and are inspired by your work. I'm with you, and I'll always be with you. All you got to do is call. I'll be there.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kaba. Like I say, I'm honored. Family, we wrapping this up. Please go follow Dr. Kaba on his page. All the links that he talked about, I believe, are in your link tree on your page, aren't they? www.kabane.com, kabakamene.com. The books on Amazon. You can get all 3 books on Amazon as well. Make sure you go get that, and make sure you follow Dr. Kaba. They're on all platforms. So, with that being said, thank you again, Dr. Kaba. We're going to wrap this up. And to the family, Hotep, peace and black power.